partnership with Governor Gavin Newsom, are suing President Trump and asking the court to set aside the president's unlawful action federalizing the California National Guard.
California's Attorney General announcing the legal action today against the Trump administration. Rob Bonta says President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth unlawfully ordered the deployment of 2,000 troops to the LA area in response to immigration protests on the streets and freeways of downtown. The lawsuit you just heard him mention seeks to rescind that order for the Guard. And just this afternoon, about 700 Marines from 29 Palms were mobilized to LA, all in response to this weekend's protests against recent ICE raids that evolved into burning cars, defacing buildings, and looting. And some shot off commercial fireworks and threw bricks and rocks toward law enforcement officers. Today appears to be a different scene, with protests remaining peaceful. ABC 10 News executive reporter Adam Rakusin was on the ground in downtown LA yesterday as fires burned and flashbangs tried to keep the crowds back. He joins us from the epicenter in LA again today. Adam?
And Kimberly, we're outside of the federal building in downtown Los Angeles, which has really been the focal point for these immigration protests. It's also the only place that we've seen the California National Guard. They're the ones right at the top of the federal building standing guard. They've got shields, they have batons. They're standing side by side with the Los Angeles Police Department. To give you a little bit of context of where we are, this is about a block away from Los Angeles City Hall, where you saw those images of the protests last night. This is also a block in the other direction from the 101 freeway, where we had those cars that were burning on fire and protesters throwing things down onto the freeway. Now, the protest started about 2 hours ago. It was several hundred people at that point. It's grown probably close to 1,000. We're out front of the main location, but there are people that are all across the different buildings down to the correctional center in downtown LA. The message today, protesters are calling for the federal government to abolish ICE. This stems from the immigration raids that happened last week. The protesters today are loud, they're organized, but they're peaceful. Much different from last night. That's how yesterday started as well, though. However, as the hours went on, things changed. New people came in. The protests turned destructive. People burned cars, threw bottles, other items at police, and in some cases looted stores. But again, that happened as the night went on. We watched police fire rubber bullets, tear gas, pepper balls, and other things at the protesters to try to gain control. About 24 people, maybe a little more, were arrested at that point. We watched it as the hours went on. Once again, protesters took over the 101 freeway, which is that major artery through the downtown area. Since we've been here for the past couple hours, we've watched people climb up on top of the bus stop that's right here. They've climbed up and they're going toe-to-toe with the National Guard. But anytime that they've gotten up there, they've been incredibly peaceful, giving them a little bit of a line. They've been loud, of course, but peaceful. Anytime somebody's gotten close, they've sat down, said give them some space. So a much different atmosphere from what we saw. We've heard those calls about mobilization, the mobilization of the military, but this is the only place that we've seen the National Guard. You talk about the troops being mobilized potentially to come down to downtown Los Angeles. The only people that have been in the streets are LAPD, Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Department, so this is still being very much controlled by the local authorities here and others from around Los Angeles County. We're going to continue to follow the protests here and report back as we feel more information. Reporting live in downtown Los Angeles tonight, Adam Rakusin, ABC 10 News.